Hey, what is up guys? My name is Oleg, this is Bond, welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel and you like the content, please subscribe. On the weekend, I went to a flea market and I picked up two amazing vintage timepieces. One of them is a vintage Timex, the other one is a Tissot Seastar. In this video, I'm going to do a review of the Timex that I picked up. Now, I got an incredible deal on this watch. So I went to the flea market, one of the sellers that usually sells all kinds of random items, knives, forks, batteries, everything. He had a few watches as well on his table, and one of them was this vintage Timex. It didn't have a strap and it was just kind of lying off to the side. Clearly the seller didn't know too much about this watch. So I asked how much he wanted for it and he said $10, and I kind of got him down to $8. Now that's $8 Canadian. In US currency, that's $6.50. That's right, I bought a vintage 1970s watch for $6.50. Incredible deal. Just think about things that you can't or can purchase with $6.50. I mean, I hate to make this comparison because everybody does. You know, you can buy a cup of coffee or you can buy this watch. But in this case, it actually applies. This watch costs almost as little as a cup of coffee, and it has 40 to 50 years of history. It's a horologically important brand, Timex, and the watch actually works and looks pretty good. So let's get into the review. So here's the vintage Timex that I picked up at the flea market. As I mentioned in the introduction of this video, it came without the strap, but because I have a small collection of these vintage watches, and the good thing about them that most of them have the same lug width, it's very easy to interchange straps. So I had one of these straps lying around. I just popped it on and it kind of works. I just wish that the buckle was also gold plated like the rest of the watch is. Now the way I'm gonna do this review is I'm gonna do it the same way as I review all the other watches on my channel, which is kind of strange because recently I reviewed a $5,000 Breitling and now I'm reviewing a $6.50 vintage Timex, and this is by far the cheapest watch that I've ever reviewed. Of course, it's not new, it's vintage, and this price is not easily replicated. It's not like you can go to the same flea market and pick up the same watch for the same price, but I just thought it was so incredible that this watch is so cheap, and the fact that to have a cheaper watch on this channel, I'd probably have to go cheap Chinese quartz watch. And even then, I don't know, with the shipping and maybe taxes, I don't know if I can get a watch for cheaper than $6.50. And this watch here is pretty good. So let's get into the dimensions first. We have a diameter of 35 millimeters, a lug to lug width of 39 millimeters, a lug width of 18 millimeters, and the thickness of 11 millimeters. So by today's standards, this watch is not very large. 35 millimeters diameter is on the smaller side. However, for a vintage watch, this size is actually pretty good. 35, 36 millimeters. It's kind of a sweet spot for myself in terms of vintage watches. A lot of them, as you know, are 33, 34. Some are even 31 millimeters in diameter. Those are way too small. I have a Hamilton. It's a square face, and that one is 27 by 27 millimeters, so just tiny. This one here looks like a monster in comparison. However, again, comparing to modern watches, it still is on the smaller side. Now, thickness wise, it is 11 millimeters. However, a lot of that comes from the domed crystal, and it does have a domed acrylic crystal. If the crystal wasn't domed, or just the way it looks, the gold plating versus the domed crystal, when it's on your wrist, you don't really notice the crystal. It does look thinner and it does fit really well. The round case, this is one of the only watches that I have that is completely round case. It's kind of an interesting look and gives you very strong retro vibes or vintage vibes. Taking a bit of a closer look at this watch here, we have a gold plated case. So of course this is not a gold watch. Now, I don't believe it's actually stainless steel. It probably is brass or some kind of alloy metal that's been gold plated. The gold plating is done fairly well. It's all polished look, so it has a bit of a shine to it. The finishing is pretty good. I mean, for a vintage watch, these watches, even when they came out, they weren't that expensive, so it's not anywhere near the standard of some of the watches that you see today, but it's done fairly competently. The gold plating actually held up really well. We don't have any scuffs or scratches or any points where gold plating is coming off. We also have a crown at 3 o'clock position. I believe the crown is actually original because the aging and the patina on the crown kind of fits the overall aging and patina on the case. We do have a stainless steel case back. It says here water resistant, and what does it say here? Stainless steel back. So yeah, that's just a back that pops open. So the dial is actually done really well. We have applied indices for all the hour markings. We also have the 6, the 9, and the 12 in Arabic numerals. They're done really well and kind of, again, give you those 1970s, 1960s vibes in terms of the font that they used. There is no running minute track, so the dial is fairly clean. The only writing on the dial is the Timex at the 12 o'clock, water resistance by the 6 o'clock, and we also have some serial numbers all the way down at the bottom of the dial. That's it. There's no other writing. And of course there's the date complication that still works. Guys, it still works. In fact, this watch is fairly accurate. I didn't test the exact accuracy like I do with the new watches. I usually test them on the app on my phone over the 24-hour period, and I tested over several days. This one here, I didn't have time to do so, and I just don't really care that much about the time accuracy on these vintage watches. However, just from my personal wearing the watch and my experience with it, it is very accurate. I mean, it's within a minute per day for sure. I think it might be even within the 30 seconds per day, which is very, very impressive for a watch that I paid $6.50 for. Now, the watch features an M27 movement from Timex. It's a very, very basic movement. It has, get ready for this, 0 joules. That's right, it has 0 joules. It's of course hand wind movement with the date complication and power reserve of around 42 hours. This watch and this movement was designed as kind of the working man movement. So nothing fancy, just gets the job done. Super easy to service, and as you can tell, runs for ages. I placed this watch sometime around 1970s. Now it's 2018 now, so you can imagine this watch being around close to 50 years, if not maybe 40-45 years of age. That's a long time for a watch, and it still ticks and it still is fairly accurate, and the date change works. Kind of everything works on this watch. So we have these very thin lugs. They are almost not noticeable. Well, they are noticeable, but when you wear it on your wrist, and I'll show you a wrist shot soon enough, they kind of disappear and the watch just looks like a round coin, which is a cool look to have. As I mentioned, I don't have too many completely round watches, so this is one of the only ones in my collection, and I really like that look. It looks really nice with the suit, or when you're a little bit more dressed up. This makes it a perfect dress watch, and just having that vintage Timex, I mean, it's pure class. Come on, guys. Even though it's basic movement, even though it's like $6 watch, I am very, very proud of wearing it. And in fact, it was very hard for me to take it off my wrist and wear anything else other than this watch. Before I show you the date change, because it's not a quick set date change, you have to work at it a little bit. I want to show you the other watch that I bought at the flea market. And this one here is a Tissot Seastar, again, sometime 1970s. Now this watch here is just amazing. I paid, actually I'm not going to tell you how much I paid for it just yet. I'll do that in the review, and that review will be on the channel sometime in the future. However, I do have a bit of a problem with this watch, and I don't know if you guys can help me. Maybe if some of you know, leave comments in the comment section. But basically, when I bought the watch and I wore it for a few days, it was perfectly fine. However, when I was washing my hands, I guess a little bit of moisture got into the under the crystal, and then when I was walking bond, it was raining, and I guess even more moisture got under the crystal. And now if the watch is just sitting out on my desk, it doesn't have any condensation buildup on the crystal. However, if I put it on my wrist, after about 15 minutes, I see a lot of condensation under the crystal. And I did try the old rice in a sealed bag trick with this watch. I left it on for 2 days. It still has a little bit of condensation left. I also left it out in the sun on my balcony. Still condensation. So I don't know what to do. Maybe some of you have experience and can give me a little bit more advice on what I can do to get rid of that condensation, because it's a bit annoying. Not a big deal. I know it will go away over time, but I just don't want it to damage the movement. Yeah, so I'll have the review for this watch sometime in the future. But coming back to the vintage Timex here. So when I purchased it, it did have some scuffs and scratches on the crystal. I buffed it out with the nail filer thing and some toothpaste. I do it for very cheaply. I don't want to buy some products, and there are a ton of products to buff it out, but I just found that the nail polish thing and the toothpaste works really well. If you want to see kind of a tutorial on how I buff out those scratches on acrylic crystals, maybe leave a comment in the comment section below, but it's fairly easy to do. So let's see what the actually hand winding sounds like. Here it goes. Again, it's not a very high quality movement, so the hand winding, it sounds, I'd say, pretty basic. Nothing special about it, but it does sound vintage. And the crown action is pretty good, although it is a bit stiff. I think this watch does need a service. So now let me show you how to change the date. So first thing we need to do is pull up the crown. And the crown here, as I said, is a bit tight. All right, there we go. So we have to turn the crown, and first we need to, it doesn't turn very well, I tell you that. And of course the watch is not hacking, you can still see the seconds hand turning. All right, so now we have the date changed. Did you see that? All right, so let's say, so first you have to set the date and to set the day, and what you have to do to set the day is basically you have to turn it like this back and forth until you get the date that you want. So let's say we want Sunday the 27th or 28th. So what we have to do is right before it's gonna change the date. All right, so about there, we have to kind of go back, and then we have to go forth. So we're at 27th. Now we're at 28th. You kind of set the day first, and then you have to set the date by going back and forth. And as I mentioned, the crown is not very smooth in terms of operation, so it's not an easy task to set the day date. So what I did, I just left it at whatever default day date was, because I don't wear this watch every day, and to set it every time I put it on my wrist would be quite a task. And here's what the watch looks like on my 7¼ inch wrist. As you can see, it actually doesn't look that small. It fits fairly well. It fits like a proper dress watch should. Now, if it was a new watch, I'd prefer it to be around maybe 38, 39 millimeters, but at 35 millimeters, it still does look really good, and it looks very unique. I actually got a few comments about this watch already. All right, so that was my review for the vintage Timex. Sometimes it pays off to go to the flea market multiple times and to be patient. I appreciate you watching until the end. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, like, subscribe, comment, you know what to do. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys next time.